Hey everybody, I'm Christine Barr, and this is Today Over Tea, where we have real conversations about things that matter. I'm a dancer, businesswoman, traveler, and host. And today we're creating an open-minded space with hopes of spreading awareness and education through similar experiences. I'm going to introduce you to some of the most passionate and knowledgeable people in my life. 2020 is the time to own who you are, reach your highest potential, and just love your life. Because let's face it, we're all going through something, but it's time to evolve as a society. We need to spread more kindness and love for each other and this planet. So let's start the conversation. Welcome back to Today Over Tea. I am here with Jack and Mark, and this is way too professional.
So many cameras to play to. Which one do I play to?
This is your camera.
Hi.
This is your. No, I don't know.
Hi, what's up?
So, yeah, we're gonna be way more casual than that. The idea, though, however, is that these are two amazing guys that work with Noelle and I, and we are actually called the Content Crew. And once a week.
With a K.
With a K.
Trademarks.
Because it's trendy. And so once a week we all get together and we create content for our YouTube channels, our social medias, Instagrams, all that stuff. It's awesome. So we're always trying to think about
He doesn't know what OnlyFans is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's probably never.
But you guys at home do.
You guys know what OnlyFans is.
Subscribe.
But the idea is that we're always creating things on a very professional level, right? And I told them, I was like, hey guys, I just want to do this thing for my podcast and have a conversation. And it's almost like we don't know how to just be less than, what we're trying to do all the time. But
When we're on, we're on.
When we're on, we're on. That's it, exactly. So we're just going to have a normal conversation. Can we do that, Jack?
So we're on the couch, we're in the vibe.
Exactly.
And we have our tea.
We do. We're so ready. This tea is amazing. I put 3 different bags in here and I'm just loving
Christine, I
it.
appreciate you teaching me the ways of putting loose tea leaf into the tea.
Mint. Yeah. No, loose tea leaves, that could be weird. But mint, you can eat. So you
Which is a leaf, but it's ground up,
It
right?
is, but it's awesome.
Okay,
I got it in France. It's amazing.
I'm drinking French tea.
I spilled some on my pants.
Of course you did.
That's
We
$100.
can't take you anywhere. Okay, so let's get into it. So we want to hit.
Let's spill all the tea
Spill it all.
right on the floor.
We want.
We should start with entrepreneurship. I think that's a good one. Since
like
we
it.
all have that in common.
We do. That's kind of how we all bonded. Jack, why don't you tell the story about how you and I met? Because I think that's a fun story in the social media time that we live in.
Okay.
So I was on Craigslist looking for a good time. I knew it. Listen,
Damn it,
if
Jack, not that version.
If Jeffree Star can meet people on Craigslist, so can I.
Okay.
Anyways.
It's been
let's
how
chill,
long?
guys.
How long has it been?
Okay. It's been 4 years.
That sounds about right. Because it was before I met Noelle.
So I met you on Instagram. I reached out to you because you had a PR company and I was desperate for gigs and we just hit it off.
We did. You contacted me and said, do you represent magicians? Because that's what you do. Illusionist is what you are. And I said, I don't have any at the moment, but I'm open to it. And I said, why don't we kind of do a phone conference, because you were living in the Bay Area at the time. And I was here in Vegas. And we talked for 45 minutes an hour.
Yeah.
We just had this great vibe. And then we were both just hungry for kind of the next thing. And it was just really exciting.
So hungry that we went to sushi together.
Was that your first official meeting?
When you came to Vegas, because you had a gig in Vegas or something, and you were
I was
like,
opening
hey.
at the Tommy Wynn Theater.
Oh, that's right.
Highlight of my career.
That's it.
And
Point.
I love Tommy.
No,
it was a
it's
fun
awesome.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And we met.
And then we met up for sushi. We talked even more.
And then we went and saw a show.
We did.
We saw a show.
That's right. That's right.
I met your dad. I met the family right
That's
away.
right. Right away.
Wow, these two move quick.
We do. Yeah, we were just right on the fast track. And then.
And I'm a never bring you home to your family kind of guy, so I was very honored.
And then you introduced me to Mark.
Yeah.
So that was months later or something like that.
Yes.
And you guys were both in town. You were like, you gotta meet my friend Mark. We met at a buffet because that's our thing.
Love
We
buffets.
love buffets, so we always meet at a buffet. And I was so impressed with you. The first time I met you, no, seriously.
I met Jack, he was alright, but Mark, I was so.
Talk to me.
okay.
Talk to me,
That's
Christine.
smart.
Talk to me.
No, seriously, like, I'm sorry, when you're
No, it's fine.
when you're in the entrepreneurial world, no. Jack, you and I connected very quickly, and that's the reason we met past the phone conversation. But when I met you, because also we have to remember that, like, you and I are closer in age,
Yeah.
and so when I met you and all the things that you had done, and also all of you were very much like what my brother and I grew up doing, is we couldn't afford to have people do the editing for us, the
Right.
producing, and the lighting, and the this, that, and the other, so we
Yeah.
learned how to do it all. And even if it wasn't up to par, we figured out how to make it awesome.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And when you were telling me and showing me some of the things that you had done, even at that point, I was like, whoa, like, you've done your research.
YouTube tutorials, everyone.
That's it. Like,
Google it. It's out there. Anything you
I was
want to
so
do
impressed.
is on the internet, which is exciting.
It is.
Whenever someone says, "How do you do this?" I think the answer is go Google it.
Google
'cause
it,
it's
YouTube,
out there.
everything.
The-
Yeah.
Everything you need is there. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing between the three of us, but even with
Oh, I don't know how to do anything.
Oh. We'll leave Jack out of it, but.
I barely know how to function.
Jack doesn't give himself as much credit as he deserves.
No, but I mean, especially the four of us, when we work together once a week at least, we try.
I hold things. I hold
YouTube
my
is a great
PA.
PA.
I hold
He
bags.
gets me juice.
Emotional support.
Totally. Fixes my
Showrunner.
hair, blocks my face if I'm a little too shiny in the camera.
Yes.
Boom.
But yeah, we all are.
Stars, they're just like us.
We're making our projects on a budget, and we're trying to make that happen.
But you guys will never know.
Right, and we make it look like it's this grandiose.
I think Mark's really like the queen of that.
He really is.
Like Mark has some of the stuff he's put out, like you would never guess that it was done on like a dirt cheap budget.
Right.
And I mean, he does have a budget, but compared to like what you think it is, like it's nothing. You know,
Right.
he's very. I think we're all pretty resourceful.
I agree.
I like that.
I mean, you
word.
have
Resourceful.
like a studio
Yeah.
in your home. You have
Yeah.
like a whole garage set up with all
Right.
this like, you know, things that you did for your last album and all
Yeah.
this different. I mean, just crazy stuff, which is just awesome to see. And Jack, I went and saw your show
We did.
in
The big show.
the Bay Area. That was like what, 6 months in the making. You had.
Well,
Oh well.
I mean,
This is 2.0 though. Isn't
Well, I mean,
the
this is
show has been a
right.
long time in the making. We honestly threw it together very quickly.
But you had dancers.
Oh yeah,
you
I mean,
had
it was a long
illusions.
time coming. It
Yeah.
was not like, yeah, it was definitely something where, you know, a lot led up to it, but then when it actually
Right.
came to like putting it on, you know, it was a big show with like 4 dancers and a whole team and staff,
It was
and you know,
awesome.
so it was a lot to get together. But,
It was in a really cute venue in the Bay Area.
famous gay club called Oasis.
That is when you impressed me. No,
The other 3 years, trash, garbage.
Well, that's because you got to see him in his
3
element.
years, you
From
talk.
I
all
had
the
never
work
seen,
that he does.
because you have to understand kind of how
Yeah.
this works, so we're going to get into a little bit more detail about how they kind of do that, but after we'd known each other a few years, they decided it was time to move out of the Bay Area, and they moved to Vegas.
And I think a big part of that was like you kind of encouraging us to, and like we did that gig with you, which would, you know,
That's
we did
right.
that gig with your stepmom
Yeah,
for
we
a
did the
fundraiser.
book bash, and you guys did.
And so we
that's
came
right.
out and did this gig, and we were like, you know, this is not half bad, you know.
This will be fun, yeah. And so it's been almost what, over a year?
2 years
It's been
for me.
about 2
Almost
years.
2 years.
Wow.
March, yeah.
God, time flies by so
Uh-huh.
fast. So now they've been in Vegas, but you have to understand when they say they live in Vegas, they're here like
Half the
4 or
week.
5 days, and
And we
then
travel.
you travel for 2 or 3 days on the weekend to go back to the Bay Area. 'cause
Sometimes it's all week. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, your December you were kind of out because that's your heavy, you know, time for gigs. But I mean, that's really cool that you're able to maintain your connections and be able to do that. I think a lot of people can't even imagine having a life like that where you're on a plane every week and you're going back and forth and you're doing gigs and you're coming back and that's just your norm. It's not my norm, but at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
But how does that even go? Like, if someone who asked you, how does that work? What would you say?
I
to
feel
them?
like it's anyone's lifestyle. I think some people like get up and work like a 9 to 5 type job. They get
Yeah.
up and they're in the routine. And then for us, like obviously it was a little bit different when we're flying back and forth and stuff. But you learn to like get into the routine.
Well, for
It
me, it's
becomes
like,
normal.
you know, people are like, oh, that's crazy, but mind you, I have never worked a real job in my life. Like, I don't have to get up at 6 in the morning and go,
Right.
you know, work for, you know,
A company, yeah.
scrub toilets at McDonald's. Like, I've
Right.
never had to do that. And so for me, like, I, you know, try and just appreciate, you know, even when I'm like, oh, I don't want to go, you know, fly on this Ratchet Spirit Airlines flight or whatever I'm doing, you know.
Clearly, we're not sponsored by Spirit Airlines.
I fly first class, you know, in Southwest. So. They don't have first class, do they? No.
They don't have
But
first
so like
But we do love Southwest.
Yes.
Sorry, we do love Southwest.
I have their credit
Love
cards.
me some Southwest.
Points.
They're
So,
amazing.
but like so that's just been my norm. Like I always did magic shows full time, and then I'm 20, and so I wanted to move out of my house, my parents' house, and so to me, flying every weekend, it's like whatever, like I get to do whatever I want during the week,
Right.
and work on my projects and stuff.
Which
so
is amazing.
It's like I don't mind it so much.
So that's
I don't
what
want to be doing it forever on this scale. Like if I'm going to be traveling, I want to do bigger shows. But right now, it works.
But you're
for me.
so young, and we keep telling him that all the time. We're always
I'm
like,
just
oh
a
my god, Jack,
baby.
you're such a baby. Because Mark and I are, at least, we're 10 years older than him.
I'm 47.
So that's it, yeah, he looks
I
really
look
good for his
great.
age. That's what's so cool
That's the
is
tea
that,
right
like,
there.
seeing you
So
at
much
your
nicer.
age, I grew up in an entertainment family, so I was always working in the studio. When I was 21, I was managing my dad's studio and doing all that stuff. But I did have like a normal job. I worked at Kohl's, was my first job when I was 16. Then I ended up working somewhere else. I would do part-time gigs here and there. I had kind of acclimated a little bit to, I was gonna go to college, and I went there for a year and did, so I kind of like was following society's path and entrepreneurial path at the same time. So to see you just kind of like, literally balls to the wall, just go for it and just be like, I don't need another job, this is what I do, and you'll see him, like, I told him to turn his phone off now, but when we're together and we're doing stuff, he's like, sorry, I have to take this call. Like, he's very professional, like, he always takes the call, make sure you gotta follow up with your clients and get the paycheck and do the thing and book your gigs, make sure you don't double book, the whole thing. And that's such a skill that I think so many people at age 30, 35, 40 don't even know, and you're 20. So, like, where did that even come from?
Well, I think it came out of stubbornness of like, I do not like to be told what to do.
Okay.
And so
Because your parents are not entrepreneurs.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Well,
And you don't have any
my
siblings?
dad kind of does like landlording. Is that a word?
He's a very successful,
So he owns
Not
property.
exactly,
No.
but
He
he,
owns
he
property.
makes a living.
Yeah.
And so, but that I didn't get that from him. Like I was doing that before he was even. I just
Right.
had that in me. I think my parents used to pay me to like do sports because
What?
they would like pay me to go
Stop
like
it.
play baseball, like $100.
They wanted you to get out and
And
move.
so I was a little chubster. Now I'm skinny, thanks to Flat Tummy Tea.
I knew he was gonna say
Sponsored
that.
by Flat Tummy Tea.
Oh god.
That is not what this is.
This is just chamomile. I used that money to start buying magic props, which then I sold on eBay, and that was like the beginning of my entrepreneurship when I was like literally like 10, and then it just like led into me, doing shows like just naturally.
Yeah.
And I was doing shows since I was probably 8, but eventually I started getting paid to do it, and then it just
How
kind
did
of
you
built
start
from
getting
there.
paid to do it?
You just start, you do shows for free, for fun when you're really young, and then people are like, oh, you want to come perform at my kid's party and I'll pay you $100, and then it just kind
So
of,
you just build a reputation.
Mhm.
And I
and
think,
then you obviously, like, once you get into it, you find other ways to do it, but
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so you
it just happened very organically. I never made the decision, like, oh, I'm going to be a magician. Like, it just always was that.
It just happened.
Mhm.
So, that's crazy because you're 20 years old and you've already been working for 10
Yeah.
years. Like, to even say that. And we were just talking yesterday about how we're millennials, but he is... Yeah, we're saying it. We're saying
Nope.
Technically
Nope.
a Gen Z,
Nope.
but he
Nope.
is more
Get out
of
of here
a
with that.
millennial.
Get out of here
Let
with
me finish.
that.
Let me finish.
I'm
let me
not
finish.
Gen Zer.
All right. Well, now I'm not
Take
gonna,
it back.
No, I'm not going to
Take
take
it
it back
back.
because you cut me off. So.
No, but
Gen
the
Z.
reason I think that's so important is because I've always said that our generation, the millennials, is a transitional generation. We're the ones that are finally figuring out that if we go to university, we're going to be $50,000 and over in debt. And some people are quitting.
Wow.
My parents, if you're watching, you are welcome. To my brother, you are welcome. You'd be going to community college if it wasn't for me. You are welcome for that.
But what I'm
Just
saying
wanted
is that
to-
if you are the generation under us, look at what you've already done.
I didn't go to college.
You're
by
not
the
even, but it's not even about
Yeah.
college. If you were going to be a doctor or lawyer, sure, college, go for it.
way. Dr. Jack, oh god, that's terrifying.
Oh god.
But,
no, let's
but
not.
what I'm saying is that I feel like the next generation is going to already look at what we've been doing and they're going to learn faster. That's the idea.
We did pave the way, didn't we, Christine?
We did.
You did.
We haven't had this conversation on the podcast before, and I think it's a conversation that too many people are having, but they're having it in an angry way.
Yeah.
Or they're just, you know, if you are gay, you're aggressive towards it. If you're not gay, you're trying to protect. It's just like, it's back and forth. I don't think anyone knows how to have this conversation. I think the first question is, how do you feel about being gay in today's world?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's easy because now it's more accepted? Or do you feel like it's harder because it's so talked about?
I think that, like, you know, I think, like, a really cool place for us to get to one day is the day where, like, nobody has to ever make a whole big coming out. Like, it doesn't have to be a big thing.
Right, because
like,
I didn't tell my parents I was straight. I just was born and
my
did my
esthetician,
thing.
like, it was the opposite for her. Like, her mom was, like, super, like, had all gay friends, and she was like, you know, if you guys are gay, it's fine, you can tell me. And her and her brother, like, always grew up like, should we be gay? Like, is this okay to be straight? But, like,
Guess it is how
shout
you
out to
grow up.
Melissa, I love you, girl. But no, I want to get to the point where, like, we don't have to do that, because I just remember, like, I came from an accepting family, and, you know, I honestly never, you know, faced too much homophobia, and, you know, but even so, I felt uncomfortable until I was probably in high school, you know, and so, you know, and then it was fine, you know, like, but I would be cool to see it get to a point where, you know, even as a high schooler, you don't have to feel like it's this thing, you know, like, weighing over your shoulder. It's just like, you can just, you know, I mean, I never, like, come out.
I agree with you.
You know,
I think the whole coming out, like, you have to tell
it's
your
just
parents,
like
like,
a
do the whole
lot.
thing.
It's
like,
stressful.
I agree.
It doesn't have to be.
I agree with that. I think because now there's so many options in, like, especially if you're dating someone. I mean, granted, we have certain apps that are designated for certain things, so you should be on the right one. But the idea is that, you know, you meet someone and you're like, well, are they into guys? Are they into girls? You don't know. So there kind of needs to be a little bit more clarity there, because now there's so many questions. But I agree.
I'm not saying not, like, you know, I'm not saying not.
No, but I agree with the whole, like,
but
coming out concept
yeah, it
and
just
everything.
doesn't have to be this
I think it
whole
doesn't need to be
grand
such a parade.
spectacular.
Because I think you're right. I think
It's just like,
for
you
the
know,
person, it's very, like, stressful. What about you, Mark? How was your experience?
Instead of coming out, I had a quinceañera, and I got a BMW, and Jay Alexander made me appear out of a crystal casket.
Oh my god!
No,
Why am I not part of your family?
Right? No, my parents are more religious, and I signed an NDA with them not to discuss it. I'm just kidding. I didn't.
I was
Because
like,
his face
what?
totally flipped out. No, but we don't. It's my dad was in, like, the military, and he's very religious and stuff. So it's very don't ask, don't tell, like, just don't mention it. But no, yeah, but, like, so Jack's thing is absolutely, like, separate. Like, I don't talk at all about my sexuality with my family, like, at all. It's completely, like, just I don't at all. And then when
Still to this day.
And
Still
I'm
to
like,
this
hey
day.
mom, I just got a blowjob from the guy
and yeah,
upstairs.
he talked about sexual things with, like, his,
Yeah,
like,
you're way
mother.
too open with your mom. We're not
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another podcast.
He'll be having sex, and his mom will be in the corner, like, with a sign, like, "Go Jack!"
You're doing great,
with
sweetie.
pom-poms, yes. You can take it all.
Oh my god. So yeah, I mean, because a couple years ago, finally, gay marriage was passed. It just passed in Europe. My aunt actually just got married. Same thing about a year ago.
Shout
because
out
it
to
passed.
Hope. Hey,
Yeah, Hope, but also my aunt in France got married because it
Oh,
passed in
two
Europe.
lesbian
I
aunts?
have two lesbian aunts on
Love
both
that.
sides.
Oh, wow.
You know, bookends make it all great.
Yeah.
They're awesome, and I always say this when people learn that I have two lesbian aunts on both different sides, is that I've never seen them better than when they're with their wives. They are both made, like, they have gotten so much out of their comfort zone and become better people. My aunt in France has calmed down a lot because she's an entertainer, she's very energetic, and she calmed down so much because of her wife. And my aunt here got out of her shell. She now is traveling all over the United States and doing all these things that she wouldn't have done before when she was younger. And she wasn't like that in her previous relationships, you know? So sometimes you just have to find that person or find out who you really are, and that helps a lot. Do you feel like, I know you follow, like, Lady Gaga a lot, she's a big activist on all this stuff.
I do.
Well,
actually, I just watched
you know what I
her interview with Oprah today.
Oh, I wanted
It
to
was really
see
good.
that.
I actually got a lot of
On the
respect for her
Vision
from that.
Vision
Yeah, I really
Juria.
liked it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a huge... Oh, God, I'm going to get so dry. You know, I'm not even going to comment because I know I'm going to be dragged for that one day. I like Lady Gaga a lot. I'm not, like, you know, a massive fan of hers, but I really respect her. Like, she's definitely paving the way for a lot of people.
Oh, and I think she's trying to just be a voice.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I mean?
amazing.
Which I think a lot
It's
of
so
a lot of
cool.
them are.
Especially when you have that platform.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I would say for both of you, since you've had fairly positive journeys, in coming out and doing your sexuality and all that stuff, what would the advice you would give for people who are going through a rough time? Maybe they don't have supportive families, maybe they're in a community where, you know, they're living in a state that's not very liberal.
It's a really, really tough thing. You really have to just judge it for yourself, and I guess talk to your community and make the right decision, you know, like what makes most sense for you, because, you know, even if you don't tell your parents, maybe you wait till you go to college and then you can be gay in college, you know.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm
or even
the
just
wrong person to
bullying.
ask, because like I didn't have that like actual life experience. I don't want to tell people, like, you know, if you're like 17 and you're like, I want to come out, but you're like 1 year away from your parents shipping you off to college, it's like, I don't want to, you know, because I had this situation where somebody did come out to me who went to my independent study, and he was like right about to go to college and he wanted to go become an engineer, and his parents are super homophobic. He's like, what should I do? And I'm like, I'm not going to go tell him to come out to his parents and risk that. But then on the other hand, of course you want to be yourself, so I don't want to say to hide that either. You know, so talk to your friends.
It's hard.
You got to judge your situation for yourself, and I think that's the biggest thing, is do what's good for you, you know. And then, you know, if you're an entertainer, an entrepreneur, you also have to kind of decide, like, you know, like for me, I used it a lot to my advantage. Like with my show, I have male dancers, and it's a very super pretty gay show, homoerotic show.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of decide, like, you know, or you don't have to decide. I think in entertainment more so, you know, especially like in somebody like
It's
my
a lot more
field,
forgiving.
you have to, like, you know,
And
at least
accepting.
for me, I had to decide, like, do I want to kind of feature this? I mean,
And
for
you
me, it wasn't really a
definitely
choice.
did. Yeah.
But,
Right.
you know, like, and then, like, for instance, you know, in your show, you come across rather flamboyant as well, you know.
Do you?
But in
Because
real
that's
life,
the thing. I've now seen
but in
his
real
show,
life,
but I
he's
have
actually a
not
lot
seen
less
yours.
flamboyant.
That's true. You're not.
Yeah, I did
Than
use
in your
for
show.
my show. Yeah, it's been toned down a lot because using the gay voice as a character voice in my show. I got that from Jeff Hobson, another magician who plays a gay character
Who's not
but is
gay.
not actually gay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like learned from that and was like, and you can get away with more. And I learned like people, like you can get people, like when you talk about using it to your advantage. I found like you can like win and not manipulate, but you can like manipulate
It's
and win over
like,
people.
if you
with,
have that
like,
right balance of, like, you never actually outright say it, but you, like, you know, just make jokes.
yeah, like being like when a gay person like comes in and they're just like, and they like turn on the gay and they're just like, it's so good to meet you, thank you so much for having me, blah 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 blah. If people are just kind of like, some people are charmed by it or whatever, so I totally
'Cause, you
will
know,
like
I
use it to
think-
But see, that brings on a whole new conversation, because I feel like you say people are so charmed, people are using it. People who aren't even gay, you're telling me, are using that. But I feel like, when did that shift happen? Because I felt like being gay was not a good thing.
Well, my example was someone using it in the world of entertainment, which is already kind of a
Well,
different
you know what, I
thing.
think there is, like, a certain level of, like, if you don't directly acknowledge it, I think it's like, you know, with, you know...
There's always going to be some kind of
well,
speculation.
but no,
Yeah.
but if you, like, for instance, in my opinion, I think if you're, like, you know, if you're, like, a gay, you know, you're coming out, you want to come out to your parents, I think that parents don't, if they don't want you to be gay, they're not going to ask you outright, like, are you gay? Even if they, like, know it, or, like, you know, they can tell you're gay, like, they probably don't want to ask, you know, because they don't want to have that brought up. So I feel like, in a sense, like, in entertainment, it's kind of the same thing, where if you just kind of, like, put it out there, but you don't directly, like, you know, start fighting for gay rights, you know, like, you can almost use that to your advantage. I feel like a lot of people do, and it's not a good thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but a lot of people do that. Like this guy who's straight, who puts on this gay persona, you know, and he's made it work to his advantage.
But I do it the opposite way too. I have clients, on my website as well, I try to like blur the line as well so they can't tell, because...
Yeah, like on your website, I wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, because you gotta remember, like, and not to like, and this is a different ethics thing, because some people are like, oh, that's wrong to hide your sexuality. It's not hiding it, but when
it's
you're
not featuring it.
Yeah, but when you're like an entertainer and you're like an entrepreneur and you're hustling, and my goal is to like make money, I work for so many different people. Sometimes I work for religious groups, maybe that's where that's not okay. More conservative,
liberal.
so I have to be a social chameleon and alter.
Well, I think it's about reading the room.
Yeah, and it also reads the
Like,
room. So
you're not
sometimes
gonna
I just walked into a room and there was
Yeah.
a picture, a giant picture and statue of Jesus. Of course, I'm going to cut out a couple of my BJ jokes that night. You know?
And then some audiences
No,
at corporate
totally.
will like dig that, and you like make like a gay joke that's like, you know, blurred on the line. They're not sure like if you really are, you know, and then they like laugh at it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna play this up. So in
exactly.
the
I think
entertainment
if you
world,
go to
can.
like a church, like performing at a church event where maybe that church doesn't happen to particularly favor homosexuality, and like you said, you kind of play at the character a little bit, but you don't ever like directly make a gay joke, or you don't directly say like, you know, I think
Right.
there is this like weird thing of, it's kind of like the don't ask, don't tell, like we were talking about. Like I think it is kind of like that in a lot of facets.
But again, this is for entertainers.
But I think, my
and this is like
advice though
It
is
is, I
if you
think
want to
that's
put it
tips.
out,
Yeah.
to wrap it up, like my
We're a little
advice for me,
biased, yeah.
like I decided to put it out there, and my show again is very flamboyant, and for me it works. If you don't want to do it, do you.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is do what's best for you, regardless of other people's opinions.
And a lot of the time, the advice I would give is a lot of the times when people like come out, parents will not be super receptive right away.
Yeah.
Because there's this cliche of like, oh my gosh, it's our biggest, fear. For some people, it depends on their background, where
Right.
they come from, religion, and all that.
Sure.
But I feel like the love of like, for like a child from the most of the time, like overpowers that.
Totally.
And there are so many great
Most of the time,
examples.
not always.
That's
Not
what I'm
always.
saying. Most of
There's
the time.
exceptions to every rule. Yeah.
But I think it's worth it, and like Jack said, it does depend on your situation. You have to feel it out and what's right for you.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, like, I regret not coming out to my parents, because my whole excuse
Interesting.
was I didn't want to make a whole stink of it. My whole
Guys,
thing
please don't
was,
scalp me for that. Again, I'm coming from a
Yeah,
privileged
yeah,
point
yeah,
of view,
and-
and I just don't want to
All
tell
right.
people to like, do something. Again, I
damage
think,
control.
No,
I'm
no,
just
but
saying.
hang on,
I
you
think
said
that's a good. I think
You
like
regret.
said.
Why do you regret it?
Because when I was scared of the whole thing, and I tried to like beat around the bush and would drop hints, and I always got a negative reaction from like my parents about it, and they would give me backhanded
that scared
comments
you
and
to
stuff.
come
So yeah,
further, yeah.
I would dip my toes in the water and try to tell them without telling them.
Oh, wow.
But I felt like had I actually just like stood up for myself and said, "Hey, this is the way it is.
Interesting.
You don't have to like it, but you need to respect it." And I feel like if I said that, we would have had like a better relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And now so many years have passed, like that. It's never too late to come out, quote quote.
So how did they eventually? Because they know.
We just never talk about it ever. So now it's created a
Interesting.
weird thing where like my siblings can have like their significance over, but if I because I have brought boyfriends over,
Yeah.
my parents like just don't know, or they know but we're not allowed to talk about it, and it's just a bizarre energy. It's like a really weird thing that's very uncomfortable.
Wow. Do you think that you'll ever come to a place where you be able to have a real conversation with your parents?
I mean, like, if I find someone that I'm gonna like marry them, obviously, if I have like a wedding or
Right,
something,
because then that's going to take it to the next level.
I will. And if I find someone that I would date and stuff, yeah, I would. But now I don't stress about it because I now don't seek my parents' approval at all. I
Gotcha.
don't care, like, I love them or whatever, and like I don't care though what like they think about my personal life, and I don't need that from them.
The
I think it's
validation.
important for you to have it. If you haven't, like, I'm past that now. Like,
No, but I'm with you.
you know
on
what I
that.
mean? Like,
And I think
Yeah.
there's some people that like, to kind of backtrack on my point a little bit, like I think there are some people where, in some extreme situations, I guess is why I said what I said, in some extreme situations coming out can really be dangerous for certain people, in a very, very conservative, again,
yeah,
Because
really-
I'm thinking-
but
well,
in
yeah,
some
if you're in
cases,
another country.
You're
in some
talking
cases, though,
parents. I'm thinking
well,
school.
parents, a school,
I'm thinking peers.
yeah, that too, but like I think, and there are some cases though where even if you get kicked out of your home and all your friends now hate you, I think that almost still might be worth it in some cases, that rather than hiding it.
Right.
It's so different for every person. Like if it's like a huge thing for you, like in some cases that living your authentic life but being rejected by your friends and family or risking that might actually be a better way to go. Like again, I don't know because I'm so lucky. Like
Right.
it's so
You've had a
hard to
really
say
good,
for people.
But it's interesting because
Yeah.
I didn't know that you still haven't had a conversation with your parents about it.
I try to from time to time.
Which is
It's just
interesting.
like bizarre.
But almost to kind of like segue into, because you were talking about validation from your parents,
Yeah.
and my parents have always supported everything that I do,
Yeah.
and my brother as well. But there are certain things that like, especially my mom's not really an entrepreneur, she kind of follows really society 9 to 5. So she doesn't quite get our lifestyle.
Yeah.
But she's always been supportive, but at the same time, she, there are certain things that she'll say, and sometimes you feel like, oh, I just want to tell my mom something,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden it's not the reaction you were expecting, so you kind of like, there were points where I was like, man, you kind of need that validation, but at the same time, do you? You know what I mean? And same thing for my dad. My dad's the entrepreneur, and he's the one in the family, that...
Validation is important, though. I mean, it definitely helps with like your sense of like ego, and you do need a little bit of that to carry on. Like, obviously, too much is too much,
Right.
but validation is an important thing. We all seek it because we're social creatures and we belong in like
Right.
tribes, so to speak, and that's why everyone,
Yeah, I think the way to like, if you are seeking validation, like, I know for me, my dad wanted me to go to college. It was a huge thing, we fought over that for years.
He wanted
like
you to go to
very
college for what? Just anything.
Just anything. Very intense arguing for years and years about it. And, now we're at a place where he sees, like, I'm able to fully support myself, and then he, so it's almost like, it's like, don't do it for them, but just know a little side, benefit of you working hard and being successful is the people who were like, oh, this is stupid. They'll come around one day and be like, oh, yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
And that's not why you should do it. But if that is important to you, like, that does happen after you, prove yourself. And if it doesn't, and even if they want to, like, not admit it, even after you become successful and they're still, like, oh, then you just know that's on them at that point. And you don't have to wonder, like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Like, no, that's just clearly their problem.
Well, but I think that comes with age. Just, being secure in who you are. And I've always been raised to be secure. I never felt like with people I was trying to, like, impress other people.
That's so
at
interesting. You
school.
told me that, like, I think, like, so many entertainers are so insecure. And that's so interesting that you came from that place of never
felt like I
having
was
that issue.
insecure or needed to prove myself or anything. But I do feel, and this is why it was interesting that you brought that up, is I do feel like I just turned 30, and I think maybe within the last couple of years, specifically maybe with my mom, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, that I just decided I don't need their validation anymore. And I think that even as secure as you can be, or even with age and finding, who you are and your self-worth and everything, I think there's a part of you, because they're your parents, that you're always kind of seeking that validation from them.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, just like, you're doing a great job, I'm super proud of you, But then there's a level of freedom that you feel when it's like, of course I still love my parents, I want to make them proud, I want to do all these things, and when they say something, it's great, but I'm not banking my success on them saying, you did a great job. If that comes, it's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. It should be like a side, just like a side product of it. It should not be. And
even though my parents are super supportive, I'm not like, it's not like I've never gotten compliments, they're very affectionate, I love you all the time kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like even me, I was always looking for maybe a little bit of validation from something.
Which is normal,
and
that's
then
human.
It's human, but then there's something so freeing about not feeling like you need it.
For anyone,
and
too.
about having your own validation, and just knowing that you're good. I think now I'm in a very serious relationship, and that has shifted. So now the validation I'm seeking is more from my significant other, and not in a sense of like I need, him to be so proud of me, but at the same time, like, we're trying to make each other better people. So now, if I'm looking for any validation, it's like, am I being a good person for myself, but also for him? Am I supporting this team that we're creating together?
Yeah.
Or am I letting him down? You know what I mean? I think that's where my shift.
Well, it's not so
has
much
happened.
validation as much as just like, almost holding each other accountable.
Yeah, supporting each other, growing
each other,
each other. For the record, my parents were very supportive of my entertainment career, just want to put that out there. Before everyone thinks that
No, and you want to know something?
Yeah.
Here's the
Did a lot for
thing.
me.
Long way away.
Drove me to Vegas while my dad stayed in a hotel room for 4 days while I went to
And my dad drove me to LA to pick up a prop, so like, even though
Round of applause for the dads.
That's it, yeah. Our dad's a great mom.
on board with everything,
Yeah.
again, you can a lot of times tell when they are,
No, honestly, we've been very blessed. I have to say
Yeah.
this. The common
100%.
theme with us is we've had very supportive parents, very
Yeah.
supportive communities, and I also think that we put ourselves, just the way that we met
Yeah.
and the way that you guys met and us all together, we've put ourselves and surrounded ourselves with people
I think that's a huge thing.
that support what we
Supporting
do
yourself with
and
people.
accept us for who we are.
And also
You
challenge each other and keep each
Yep.
other accountable and like,
Totally.
are doing different things than you.
Absolutely. Do you feel like in today's generation now, where we're so good at multitasking, and like we said, growing up, not having the budget to pay people to do things, so we learn how to do it on YouTube. Do you feel now that, does it still ring true that we can't be good at lots of different things if we're doing so many of them?
Yes.
Okay.
You can, even if you picked one thing in life, the beautiful thing about like art and skill and everything is you can if you live to 90, you could practice one skill and you would never perfect it because there's no such thing as perfection, it's just the evolution of progress.
Sure, of course.
So, and I think what you're talking about is like a very few select group of people that are doing this because most people on a day-to-day basis aren't trying to learn a ton of skills and put it to use on the level that like we are. That's just kind of like what our lives are.
Totally.
But I think even today it's even more dangerous because we're not dangerous, but it's more difficult because we have such an abundant in terms of access to like things. Like I said at the beginning, like if you want to learn anything, I can learn it on YouTube. technically you could learn how to do open heart surgery. You wouldn't be allowed to perform it, but on a technicality, you could learn the skill, the steps of how to do it.
So we could be pretty good at a lot of things.
You got a little back alley
but you
heart
still feel
surgery
like-
but you'll never excel though, because you can spend, you only have, do the math, how many hours do you sleep a day, times that by how many days you live, like what you sleep 30% of your life, okay, now how much do you time do you spend eating, going to the bathroom,
all
like,
the things,
I watched a video where someone did the math of like how much time you actually have to do something and added up the eating, the drinking, the social life, and did all that, and the actual amount of time that you have just to actually do something you love is astronomically small compared to your lifespan.
I believe it.
So focusing, it doesn't feel like it in the moment because it feels like we have a lot of time, but you know how fast time moves. Like it's quick, and the older you get, the faster your perception of time goes.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so important to like. It's good to have like hobbies and things on the side if you want to master everything. Do that.
Right.
But like I said, if you have an idea of grandeur and you want to be something big and excel in one specific thing and be one of that top % in that field, you have to every day go at that. You can't be, let me do a little bit of this, let me do that, let me do this and that and that.
Right, because I'm thinking immediately I go to Michael Jackson, Steve Jobs, Serena Williams, all the people that
Serena Williams doesn't also play basketball. She doesn't also have a you
guys come to my art gallery.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
She does have a clothing line.
I do, and I hate to talk about it because like I always like roll my eyes when I hear people trying to tell me like how to be successful even if they're not. I feel like that's just like a pretty basic thing. Like just focus in on one thing. If you really want to be good at it, I mean, just put simply like just pick something and run with it. And if you want to change your mind, that's okay.
Right.
But don't try and do 7 things at once. That's what you want to do.
It's hard that's what you really want to do.
It's hard though when the progress is invisible. I was like reading some stuff where they're talking about like same thing like going to like the gym. Like I mean even the gym you see more progress like after like a week or something you can start to see if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight or whatever. But like if you like to be like good at singing or like I've been working with my vocal coach for a year and he'll be like hey Mark, I listen to you to do these vocalizers every day. You won't feel the progress because there's such minute little things. But if you compare a recording from you to like 2 months later, you'll hear the difference. And it's very true, but...
Well, because you're with yourself every day. It's like when you go see family and they're like, wow, you've grown. You're like, no, I haven't.
Exactly.
But they haven't seen you in 6 months.
So you have, there's an amount of self-awareness that you have to have.
Did you dye your hair blue? I guess I did.
Yeah, exactly.
One strand at a time.
So just to wrap up, because you mentioned something that was very interesting. As you said, there are people sometimes that give their opinion that are not successful or that are not doing things. And I think that is so common in today's world. Is that we...
And I don't want anything that I said on this podcast to come out that way. I have no freaking clue, guys. I mean, I'm doing my thing. I've done pretty well for a 20-year-old, but look, none of us have any of the answers. We're just having conversations about our lives, and you take as you may.
That's it. That's the idea. It's just to open up.
This is just our experience.
Everyone's just winging it in life. That's the whole thing. Even the president, the secretary, everybody. That's a more literal experience. But everyone, literally, to an extent, is just kind of.
But I think the biggest thing is that we have these conversations off camera all the time. We'll go, we'll do content and then we'll go to lunch and we'll just naturally fall into these conversations, not on purpose. And I think that it's very therapeutic for us. Like in order to go through the crazy world that is ever changing and what we're in right now, and like you said, mental health and all of these things that are popping up. This is how I think more people should be having these conversations because I think it would keep them just.
Sometimes it's nice just
much
to
more
vent,
grounded.
Sometimes it's nice just to vent if you don't
vent,
have a therapist.
whatever,
Just venting, just
Help
getting.
hearing
I think
some
when you
other opinions.
say it out loud, you kind of come to more realizations than just bottling it up too.
Right.
And
hearing someone else's opinion. Different people the way they were brought up. Like, oh, I wouldn't think of it that way.
Expand your horizons in general.
Exactly. But also the big thing that you were just going back to that real quick is I think there are too many people, especially on the internet, that are not doing anything, they have a very loud opinion.
That's because we're in the generation.
So many things.
You're in the generation of opinion, especially on YouTube, because everyone can hide behind their computer screen and everyone has opinion, which I think it's great for everyone to have their own opinion, but I think it's such a new thing that everyone's just like vomiting everything.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is it's just negative. If you have a positive opinion, that's one thing. thing.
You have to, first of all, consciously choose, first of all, and I think a lot of people disagree. I think when you choose to be an entertainer, you do, you are basically saying it is okay for people to comment and say whatever you want.
100%.
I think that, you know what, if somebody wants to call you a dirty, disgusting, whatever, they can do that. It doesn't make it right. But you know, you can't change, you can't fix everybody, and you just have to be aware that that's going to happen.
But how do you
So I
allow,
think-
like for people who are not as strong-minded as you are,
Well,
how
but
do you
I wouldn't know because
not let it affect
I haven't experienced it on a major level. I mean, I've got, you know, and it's like every now and then, like you just kind of like brush it off. And again, I think just being, you know, secure in yourself, you know, to some extent. And just
because
being,
they're not out there doing it, you know,
No,
you're like,
but I
you're
just
at
don't
least
think,
trying.
I mean, it's like,
you
you
know?
just can't please everybody.
No, you can't.
I mean, I've had so many people try and tell me what to do with my career, and like, oh, doing this show is a terrible idea.
And meanwhile, they're doing
Yada,
well.
yada, yada.
Probably
Exactly.
not a whole lot.
It's like,
but
you
everyone
know,
has an opinion when they're not doing a whole lot.
But yes,
right?
It's like such a cliche, but you really just do have to like, you know.
Yeah.
You have to
Screw
ignore
the haters,
them.
you
But I think
know?
those people were always out there, but now all
You
the
can never get
information,
rid of them, I
all the
think.
information is
Never.
just now like concentrated in one place. You're getting an endless feed of it because of the internet. And it's
Yeah.
such a new thing. The internet's not that old. It's
No,
like
it's
this is all
not.
very, very new, and
It
we
is.
as humans and our brains haven't learned how to like adapt all of this.
Filter.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
flow of
I
information.
think that like eventually, like over time, you know, like hopefully things will improve, especially with all the conversation about mental health. Same thing with like racism and homophobia. I do think at a certain point, a lot of those people are literally just gonna die out, you know. And
I keep saying that too. I'm
the
like, I'm
hope
just
is
ready
that-
for the generations that
No, like
don't
literally,
just
some people
go.
just never change, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think it'll always be there, and it's just like, you know.
Well, because it's taught. Everything's taught down. So the
Yeah.
idea is that hopefully it's taught less and less.
Yeah.
That's the
As
concept.
new
is
ideas
that
come in,
And
that
I don't. I'm somebody who
just
doesn't.
more acceptance
Yeah,
and
but
love
I'm
and
somebody
equality.
who does not give somebody a free pass if they are brought up by racist parents to be racist or homophobic. In my opinion, a lot of people like, you know, be like, oh, that was just how they were raised. I do think at a certain point you have to take responsibility for your own life and your opinions
Right.
and live with the consequences of it.
Sure. We're talking about the documentary that Kevin Hart just made about how he's talking about
Right.
all of these different things that he did and how the society, all of this riled up because of past tweets from like 10 years ago about homophobia. Because I've only really talked to people who are straight on this topic, and I feel like it doesn't really affect them. Which way do you feel? Were you offended? Were you not offended? Do you feel like he's a comedian? Isn't he allowed to make jokes about everything? Black, white, gay, straight?
But for, you know, homophobic things, you know, no, I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna discount everything Kevin Hart does because of that, but I can also tell when somebody's full of shit or not. You know, if you made some homophobic tweets when you were young, not to say that it's okay, but you know, yes, people can grow and change on that topic.
Because I think that was his biggest thing. Was he said, yes, those
And
things
if it's
happen,
for
but
a
I've
joke,
evolved as a
and if
person.
it's for a joke, like I've gone to so many shows here in Vegas where they like make so many like homophobic jokes, but they're clearly like, you know, in good fun. And like obviously like some people are offended by them. I have a dark sense of humor. I like this kind of jokes.
Right.
You know, I'm like pretty hard to offend. But
I think that's the thing. We live in a society right now that is everyone is so sensitive.
Yeah.
And for other people, like
Yeah.
I feel like the people that got the most offended for that were straight people. Like,
Right. It's like, and that's why I can't
And you're
comment on the
like,
Camilla things because like, you know, I mean, you can have your opinion on it, but like, you know, unless it directly affects you, you know, I just hate that when, you know, when like straight people are like, oh, it's like, let me decide for myself if I care.
If
or
I'm
not.
offended,
I think
right?
Yeah, like
it all comes down to like also intent. I think like
Yeah, exactly.
if it's
Like,
a
what the
comedian, it's
context was,
different.
yeah.
But if somebody is doing it intentionally with like the backing of like to be like hateful and hurtful and is doing it in a very like malicious
And
way,
if they seem like they're backtracking just strictly to save their career,
then it's different. But yeah, but like I said, if it's a joke or something, it's fine. And my whole thing, and we won't get like super involved in this because this is on another different thing. But like a quote I love is everyone is doing the best they can at any given time in their lives. So regardless if that person who's driving on the freeway that's honking at you, that's like being like angry or something like that. That's fine. That's why we're not gonna get into. It's a whole other thing. But you know, depending on their mindset or how
But
they
think
grew
about the
up.
quote, the best they can.
At
If
the time.
they don't have enough knowledge, just because we think they shouldn't act a certain way.
I think that could be like a big excuse for a lot of.
And that's what we're not getting onto. This comes from like a book where it's all this is a whole philosophical
But
thing.
I think the thing is just a little bit more tolerance. I think if people were
Yeah.
to not feel so sensitive all the time and feel like everything gets taken so deeply.
Yeah.
That if you just kind of take certain things with a grain of salt and understand that we're kind of living in a world where there's so many things happening and there's so many tweets and
Well, now,
everything's on
like,
social media for
yeah.
life.
And also, this is like, you know, really the first time in the last few years where people have acknowledged like mental health. And so now, I mean, that's a huge thing. You know, you do have to kind of overcorrect a little bit sometimes.
Right.
And so I think it's, you know, yeah, like I'm one who's not easily offended, but I understand why certain
But also
things
you're
would be
secure in
triggering.
yourself. Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, we were talking about not just being an entrepreneur, but being, right, you guys are both magicians and doing all of those things.
Jack's also an accomplished figure skater.
That's it.
7 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The resume
Black
gets
soap,
longer
look
and
out.
longer every time I see you.
Right.
I do ballroom dancing, you sing. We have so many things that we do. Do you feel like in what we do, we're constantly having to reinvent ourselves? That if we stop,
I think it's not.
are
like,
we behind
It's
the
never a matter for me of like reinventing myself. It's just like, oh, that's, you know, I'm sick of doing that. And, you know, I just
So
want
you're just
to.
tired of it. And
I
you wanna
just
move
like,
on
well,
to
I
something
think you just naturally evolve more than reinvent.
Okay.
I mean, I think you reinvent yourself once you've already, you know, had an established thing that you've done for, like for me, I'm just always, you know, like, oh, I want to add male dancers. I want to shift my brain this way just because that's what I feel like doing. So I feel like,
You don't feel like you're doing
I
it
feel like,
to
I think
keep
a
up
lot of
with
people,
times.
you know, reinvent themselves once they've already had success with something or failed at something and they're just ready for a new chapter, you know, or like, you know, they just want to change it up. Like Madonna, you know, is always reinventing herself, but that's because she's, you know, sells out arena tours. You know, that's like a, you know, of course she wants to do something new. For me, like, I just want to, you know, keep it moving.
Reinvention sounds like a conscious effort though
Yeah.
to make a
I
change
don't think it has to be
from
this
like, you know,
thing.
from entertainers or something like that. That's what like when I hear that word.
Yeah.
But like when Jack said like evolving sounds like a more natural, organic thing that people do. And I think that that's something that we do. You evolve and that's a natural thing, but
Right. Evolving
yeah.
involves growth.
Right.
Right? You're growing, you're just naturally becoming wiser, more experiences.
Organically.
Yeah, like things are changing now that
Organic, flat to machine.
10 years ago you didn't know, so now all of a sudden you go about doing things differently. But I think especially when we do all of our content creation, I think we're always, at least Jack and I have these conversations a lot about, all right, what's hot right now? Like right now it's TikTok, and I can't stand it, honestly. Because I get it, but I'm like, oh, you know, like I'm already creating content for Instagram and YouTube and doing all these things. Like now I have to create these 15-second little things to be funny on TikTok and like you said, everyone in their
I'm
mom
just
is
like
going
kind of
viral.
realize like, you know, for me, like I'm all about what can I do that's gonna create longevity for me.
Okay.
And riding trends is a cool, and it's not necessarily to say you couldn't create something real from that.
Right.
But like I do feel
But there's no longevity
that
in that.
you know, unless not always. Sometimes
Sometimes
can be.
there is, yeah.
I mean, for me, I just kind of do.
Because there'll always be
I
a
just
next
kind of
trend.
do what I want. I just kind of like I'm just
Yeah.
like I feel like doing this. You know, I just stick with my guns. I'm like, you know, this project sounds like something I enjoy. I think that's a big part of it is do things you enjoy.
Right.
If you don't enjoy it, what's the point? You know, we all die tomorrow. Get hit by a bus. You know.
Says that all the time.
You know.
Do you feel the same way that Jack does about how sometimes we quickly get bored with what we're doing, so we're like, let's work on this now.
Mark does.
I get real bored.
Yeah.
I mean, evolving and you know, and like changing and things like that. I think it has to do with like each individual is different. Like for me, I'm constantly changing because like you know, for a long time I went hard in musical theater for a year where I did 3 shows back to back to back and was like immersed in the world of blah 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 and did all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was into videography and then I worked for a videography company and filmed like weddings and all that stuff for like a year and I did this and that. So for me, I just feel like bored, but you have to be really, really careful, especially if you have like dreams of grandeur and you want to like create something really big for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Like in today's generation now, where we're so good at multitasking, and like we said, growing up, not having the budget to pay people to do things, so we learn how to do it on YouTube. Do you feel now that does it still ring true that we can't be good at lots of different things if we're doing so many of them?
Yes.
Okay.
You can, even if you picked one thing in life, the beautiful thing about like art and skill and everything is you can if you live to 90, you could practice one skill and you would never perfect it because there's no such thing as perfection, it's just the evolution of progress.
Sure, of course.
So, and I think what you're talking about is like a very few select group of people that are doing this because most people on a day-to-day basis aren't trying to learn a ton of skills and put it to use on the level that like we are. That's just kind of like what
Right.
our lives are.
Totally.
But I think even today it's even more dangerous because we have, or not dangerous, but it's more difficult because we have such an abundant in terms of access to like things. Like I said at the beginning, like if you want to learn anything, I can learn it on YouTube. Technically, you could learn how to do open heart surgery. You wouldn't be allowed to perform it, but
Right.
on a technicality, you could learn the skill, the
Yeah.
steps of how to do it.
So we could be pretty good at a lot of things.
You'll never excel though,
Yeah.
because you can spend. You only have, do the math. How many hours do you sleep a day? Times that by how many days you live. Like what you sleep 30% of your life. Okay, now how much do you time do you spend eating? Going to
Right.
the bathroom.
All the
like,
things,
if
yeah.
I watched a video where
Driving places.
someone did the math of like how much time you actually have to do something and added up the eating, the drinking, the social life, and did all that,
Wow.
and the actual amount of time that you have just to actually do something you love is astronomically small compared to your lifespan.
I believe it.
So focusing, it doesn't feel like it in the moment because it feels like we have a lot of time, but you know how fast time moves. Like
Totally.
it's quick, and the older you get, the faster your perception of time goes.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so important to like. It's good to have like hobbies and things on the side if you want to master everything. Do that.
Right.
But like I said, if you have an idea of grandeur and you want to be something big and excel in one specific thing and be one of that top percent in that field,
Yeah.
you have to every day go at that. You can't be, let me do a little bit of this, let me do that, let me do this and that.
We have these conversations off camera all the time.
Yeah.
We'll go, we'll do content and then we'll go to lunch and we'll just naturally fall into these conversations, not on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very therapeutic for us. Like in order to go through the crazy world that is ever changing and what we're in right now, and like you said, mental health and all of these things that are popping up. This is how I think more people should be having these conversations.
Yeah.
Because I think it would keep them just
Sometimes it's nice just
much
to
more
vent,
grounded,
Sometimes it's nice just to vent if you don't have
Vent,
a therapist.
whatever,
It's
yeah.
like just venting, just
Help
getting.
hearing
I think
some
when
other
you
opinions.
say it out loud, you kind of come to more realizations than just bottling it up too.
right.
And
Yeah,
That's
hearing
that
someone else's
self-awareness,
opinion, different people, the way they were brought up, like, oh, I wouldn't think of it that way,
Expand your horizons in general.
Exactly. Listen, clearly as you can see, we can go on and on and on because we have so many awesome things.
And we can. So for the next 4 hours.
That's it.
We're gonna be doing a television.
You are now officially sucked in. No, so anyway, but they actually have a podcast as well. It's called
Yes.
Miserable Magicians,
Yes.
and it's awesome.
And Mark's trying to quit doing, but
it's very-
I've done my last episode. But we have 5
No, guys,
episodes.
it's really funny. As you can see, they have great chemistry, and they kind of talk about,
we go a lot more aggressive.
They do. So
I was
just
trying to
two
keep it
more.
very calm and
There's-
professional for today over.
Yeah. There's
tea.
definitely a
Today over flat tummy tea.
That's it. They talk about what it's like to be magicians, working in the industry, both in Las
And
Vegas and in
exposing,
the Bay Area.
we really spill the tea on
Yeah.
Miserable Magicians.
Which is good. It's really fun. I think people get a chance to see inside a little bit of what you guys do.
Yeah.
So we'll link it below as we do with everything else, so you guys can kind of catch on to what they're doing with that. And any last thoughts?
Thanks for having us, Christine.
Any last thoughts? That would be
Thank you for
last
being
thought.
here. Like, thank you for.
Thanks for having us.
They are literally anything I decide that I want to do. I'm like, hey, we're doing this. They're like, great. When do we start? Like, they're so supportive. I can't stress enough how important it is to surround yourself and create a community of people who support what you're doing. Because that, like you said,
Finger snaps for that.
it's right. It's creating your positive circle